Gaming in the modern age is a pastime enjoyed by billions across the world. Since its inception in the 1970s, and after recovering from a crash in the early 80s, gaming today has become a powerhouse in recreation and culture. And as of 2020, having an estimated global market revenue 3 times the size of the music industry and 4 times that of the film industry. Entire communities have been spawned from our favourite games, with conventions, content creators, and esports just adding to the rampant popularity of gaming today. But not all elements of gaming have improved with its popularity and its ever-growing access to the latest technologies. In some areas, quite the opposite. My name's Mitch Mannix, and please join me for part 1 of a journey exploring gaming's contemporary greatness, crazy controversies, and some of the cost we've paid for gaming in the modern age. Nothing has had a larger impact on gaming than the advent of the internet, replacing days passing controllers to each other from across the sofa to facing off against millions across the globe with a click of a button.
I'm going to reset my internet.
You open your mouth a little bit too much.
Progress. Multiplayer gaming across the internet has become a staple of contemporary pastimes. Going head to head, playing cooperatively, or even a mixture of the both, truly skyrocketed video gaming into the mainstream. Early titles such as Counter-Strike, Halo 2, and Unreal Tournament gave players the ability to test their mettle across seemingly endless rosters of adversaries, as well as adding an element that would remain essential: longevity. Without the credit screen to replace a marker in the sand for the end of a gaming session, multiplayer offerings, especially competitive ones, allow titles to be played again and again, each time offering an unknown outcome of success. Content creators, live streamers, and esports all became mainstays from our ability to connect with each other online, creating communities and refining a culture previously ridiculed. Titles can now be downloaded directly to your device, with the new and exciting updates and DLC available to give the audience even more from their favourites. However, an issue that's more recently began to arise is that adding constant updates and content patches to a title or a game as a service does require a keen eye to the new player experience, as with so many systems and mechanics being added, can create a colossal void of content that new players will be overwhelmed with and potentially struggle to get a foothold if not kept in mind. An irrefutably net positive from the onset of the internet is the ability to play together. However, the migration to an online world has also brought some more insidious elements to the party. As previously mentioned, availability to digital goods is now done almost entirely from online stores. PS Store, Xbox Live, and Steam, to name the 3 most prominent, house thousands of downloadable titles to meet any gamer's personal preference. Smaller indie developers were finally given a pathway to potential success through these platforms, leading to great titles such as The Binding of Isaac, Rocket League, and Valheim. But for every stellar game to come out of a passionate and talented indie developer, there were 10 others that hit the stores with the bare minimum, or less, and sometimes even stolen assets for a quick cash grab. The amount of shovelware, especially during Steam's Greenlight project, was staggering. Once the hilarity of the low effort for some of these games wears off, it's alarming to see how quickly a marketplace can be inundated with those that are simply out there to dupe fans of video games out of a few quid, with quickly cobbled together barely functional products. Some, for want of a better term, developers, would even release to the public full asset packs created by someone else. Asset packs that are designed to be purchased by the developers to use when creating actual unique products, this leading to the coining of the term asset flippers. Most notably, content creator and video game journalist Jim Sterling was slapped with a frankly apocryphal lawsuit for over $10 million for highlighting the products of one such company, Digital Homicide. Digital Homicide churned out reskins and buggy products that even used assets from Google Images. As you can imagine, the lawsuit was unsuccessful and made for quite the saga. Links in the description for Jim's video covering it in its entirety. But what this showed, at least in this case, is that the developer not only thought it was acceptable, to release unfinished and broken products, but also that they were entitled to do so. The internet giving game developers and publishers the ability to instantly place their products in front of their customers has also had its effect on the far larger, more established companies within the business, with one element standing out amongst the rest. Oh, how we all love a day one patch. In the past, we saw companies update versions of games post-release, of course, but with downloadable content now utilized globally, publishers know that they will at least have a lifeline to attempt to cover up the cracks and iron out potential issues with the game right after launch. Over the past few years, we've been subject to titles releasing in states that border on being unplayable, as well as some that actually were. In days gone by, when releases came exclusively on disc or cartridge, the developers as well as the publishers knew that this was their big chance to provide the customer with the experience they set out to, as well as meet any expectations that came with it. Now it's almost expected to see a sizable download sitting in our queue over a release period, ready to attempt to iron out and patch up any potentially unfinished and broken elements. It boils down to two things. The company knows it can hotfix post-launch, and the investors and the publishers will be constantly hounding to get the product launched, even without knowing or discarding the fact that it may not be ready because of this. In an ideal world, a shift in power back towards the developers would help going forward to seeing higher quality products, but money talks, and for some reason, the ones holding all the money don't see the damage that an unfinished product will do when stacked up next to delaying the launch date. Timing a release of course is still very important, but if a game shows up to the party at the perfect time, but shows up dragging its face across the floor, it's going to do some damage. It's not all bad, luckily. The ability to update and patch products also holds some great benefits. On the MMO side, for example, Square Enix frequently opens up forums to their player base and implement features and changes based on user feedback. And although uncommon, they aren't the only ones, really utilizing the access modern infrastructure gives us to continually refine and improve a product. On the subject of products, it's now not uncommon from those on the PC side of things to require a multitude of launchers and marketplace applications installed at any given time to be able to play all the latest releases. Steam, Epic Store, Origin, Uplay, and Rockstar Game Launcher, just to name a few. Each with their own overlays and pop-ups, making for a truly cumbersome experience, one that can ironically end up impacting your PC's performance at playing those games, no matter which marketplace they're obtained from. Another symptom of always online platforms is the effect of its advertisements, along with the gaming trends that can install a fear of missing out on its users, leading to some players not giving a purchase the time investment to really experience and enjoy it, but instead being hurried along to the next big thing plastered all over the storefront and social media. Don't get me wrong, the ability to have so many titles at the touch of a button is a really great thing about gaming in the modern age, but the speed in which the industry moves does have an impact. Not to mention what I like to refer to as the Netflix predicament, when I spend more time scrolling down to an endless amounts of options rather than actually getting into something. First world problems to a T. To summarise, the internet brought us closer to each other, endless updates to our favourite titles, widespread access to an endless library, and unfortunately gave corporate entities and swindling scumbags a whole new way to take the piss. When looking at how video games have evolved over the years, one factor that is front and centre is the upgrade to graphical fidelity and overall visuals sported in contemporary games. One of the few benefits of gaming in the modern age that is free from caveats and sacrifices in other areas. Developers are now able to create incredibly beautiful, vibrant and detailed worlds and experiences for their players. It only takes a look back at titles even back in the early 2010s to see that modern technology is moving at a rate of knots to continuously raise the bar in the visuals and sound design department. Coupled with the ever-improving hardware is the ability to expand the concepts and mechanics outwards, removing loading screens and creating levels and details of verticality that forge amazingly immersive player experiences. from staring at flashing lines on a screen to fully acted out scenes with motion capture and Hollywood voice talent, video games as art has been fully realised. The ability to invoke emotion that is not exclusive to raging out and throwing your controller across the room is only getting better and will only improve along with the technology. Virtual reality is still remaining relevant in the face of many justifiable doubters, and is something that can really give that gaming in the future feel. Indie titles all the way up to AAA epics are now playable in VR, and I personally am glad that it continues to retain a focus. Hey, some users even use virtual reality for adult content. Although not my bag, it does show that innovation is continuing with the medium. Or that no matter what it is, someone will attempt to use it to get their rocks off. Imagine walking in with someone with that on, like, oh my god, Daniel! Okay, wait, back on topic. It goes without saying that a real perk of gaming in the modern age is the ever-increasing potential for high quality and true artistic expression through each release. With hardware and technology advancing so fast, it gives a lot to be excited about when looking to the future. There's so much to cover when looking at gaming today, and I hope you'll join me as we dive deeper into it. Coming up in the series, we have the dangers of hype, monetization in 2021, as well as a look into the future of single-player games. There are so many great things about gaming today, and of course it would be insane not to acknowledge that. There's definitely more to it than more pixels and higher frame rates, especially recently. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I love hearing from you guys, both new and longer time supporters of the channel. On that note, if you want to join me on the next look into this, as well as all the other great content coming up, then please consider hitting that sub button and joining the community. We will continue, of course, with the reviews and first impressions, as well as the more chilled comedy focused stuff, so it's a great time to get stuck in. Please drop the video a like if you enjoyed chilling with me today, and I'll see you guys in the next one.